Just gonna give it a few moments here to get people in the room. Okay, and it looks like we are live. So thank you everyone for joining this final workshop of the day. I will go ahead and let Kevin introduce himself, and I'll be off in the background if you need anything, Kevin.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So great to see you guys. It's been a little bit of a break since I've done the ETHGlobal, and I'm super excited. I hope you guys all had a good new year and a good holiday break. And let's just get ready to rock and roll. We're going to be talking today about building your first app on Ethereum. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Build Guild. We're going to be talking a little bit about Speedrun Ethereum and Scaffold-ETH and kind of like ways that you can get involved quickly. This is a developer focused workshop, but we're going to be talking about, yeah, just like in general, how you get started and like some good examples of using Scaffold-ETH and like getting your hands dirty with Ethereum. So let's talk about it. Let's dive right into it. So I'm just going to go right in and go ahead and share my screen here. Make sure that you guys can see this. All right, we're going to be talking a little bit about kind of like how you can get started building on Ethereum, but more specifically, like what's available for you for support. So one of the cool things that when I first came into the space and I was looking for tools, it was very difficult to find the right tool, right, to get the job done. And eventually I stumbled across the Build Guild, right? And Build Guild is a group of developers that support the Ethereum ecosystem, that build tools that make it easier for you as a developer to write apps and build apps on Ethereum. So you can check out the website buildguild.com, but more specifically, one of the cool tools is Speedrun Ethereum that is actually put out by the Build Guild. Speedrun Ethereum is a developer-focused learning and education tool that basically like tests your skills to building an app on Ethereum. So you might get started and say, okay, well, I'm pretty good at writing Solidity. I kind of understand like all of the ways that I can interact with my smart contract, but I really want to like test and make sure that I have the right understanding of what makes for a good application and understand some of like core concepts, right? So one of those first challenges is you learn about tokenization, like ERC 721s and ERC 1155s are a way for you to like tokenize assets on the blockchain. And this gives you like a strong understanding of what that means. And you actually deploy an NFT, you deploy it to a public network, and then you can like submit that. Then you get a little bit further down and you start learning about crowdfunding, right? How do you get like a bunch of people to come together and fund some kind of project inside of your smart contract, right? And this is it's done through this concept of like, getting people to adversarial groups of people to participate in your smart contract. Then you go a little bit further and you start learning about ERC20s, and you learn about how you can like create a token vendor where you're actually like taking in some ETH and giving back some kind of token and like understanding the approved pattern of an ERC20 token as well. And start learning about that. Then you learn a little bit about randomness and how randomness is a little bit trickier when you're dealing with a deterministic blockchain. And you start learning about the concepts of that. And kind of in this one, you build like a kind of like a smart contract that can determine what the outcome is for a roll of a dice. And it kind of teaches you about how to kind of like circumvent that. And then you go into more concepts like building a DEX, right? Like understanding like how you actually do swaps, how you deal with like liquidity and keeping ratios of liquidity balanced with tokens. And this is a very like, this is kind of like an aha moment. When you get to this point, you really start learning how to kind of throw everything together. And then we also have other stuff available, oracles, understanding how oracles work and why they're needed for like fetching extraneous information from the blockchain. We have a whole quest on over collateralized lending. So like understanding like things like the Aave protocol and like protocols where you can like take in some kind of asset and issue some kind of like reserve or lend some assets out under that deposit, and kind of learn about how you keep the system whole. And then you go a step further and then you learn about stable coins, right? You learn about like this concept of providing some collateral, and more specifically over collateralized stable coins, and how you can build a stable coin that has a value based off of its reserves, right? And you learn a little bit about how you can keep the system whole by making sure people don't get over leveraged, and also like interacting with an oracle as well to make sure that the price versus what their like stable coin might be is in the right ratio, and learn about liquidations and a lot of really cool stuff in the stablecoin challenge as well. Then there's one on prediction markets, which are quite exciting, teaching you about the concepts of, basically this concept is like maybe you have multiple decisions for something, and what you do is you sell a token that is for each decision. So like yes and no, you sell yes tokens, you sell no tokens, and then at some point, like if someone buys a whole bunch of yes tokens, the price of no tokens gets cheaper. But then as soon as the decision makes a final kind of like check, all the no tokens are worth nothing, right? So it's this concept of creating a prediction market. Also zero knowledge, which is really cool. This is keeping the concepts or the basic concepts of zero knowledge and actually deploying that. We also have a multi-sig challenge, which teaches you about having multiple signers. So there's a lot of cool stuff. So please check this out. This is just a really good thing for you to get your hands dirty and get going. But we're going to talk about Scaffold-ETH now. So I'm going to dive right into it here, and we are going to go to Scaffold-ETH.io. So what is Scaffold-ETH? So Scaffold-ETH is a starter kit that basically comes with everything that you need to build a production application on Ethereum. It is a full stack environment. So it comes with a front end that's written in Next.js and a back end that you can choose between Hardhat and Foundry. And that's for like deploying your virtual blockchain, interacting with the blockchain when you deploy your contract. And it has a bunch of like boilerplate code to get your front end hooked to your back end. So very, very useful for hackathons because you can just start this up and you immediately have a chain running. You immediately have a visualization of what's going on with your smart contract, which we'll show off here in a little bit. There's different ways you can install it. You can just clone the repo, but the easiest way is just to use the npx create-eth command and cloning down the repo, okay? There's also really great documentation, which we'll get into in a little bit, but the docs have a lot of details about all the different components and hooks, and we'll kind of like dive into those a little bit as well. So you see those. So let's just grab this here, npx create-eth at latest, and let's go ahead and copy that. And let's start up a terminal and build an app, okay? So we're gonna run this. Now what this is gonna do is it's gonna give you this kind of like choose your own adventure style of interacting, right? You say, okay, what is your project's name? We will call it example, just to be very boring. And we get to choose our chain. So we're gonna choose either Hardhat or Foundry, right? If you don't know, choose Hardhat. If you probably care and you understand the difference, you're probably gonna choose Foundry for some reason. But Hardhat is fine. You can just use Hardhat. Foundry is a little faster. It's got some additional features. I think we're still using an older version of Hardhat maybe, which does not support solidity tests for your contracts. So that's one of the major differences is with Foundry, you can do solidity tests. I don't think we've added that into the Hardhat version. So use Hardhat if you're new, and just because there's more like support out there and stuff like that for that. Okay, so after you do this, what I always like to do is I open up windows for every single thing I'm gonna need to do, right? We're gonna need, this is still installing, but once it's done, we'll have that. We're gonna need a window up to have our chain, and we're gonna need a window up to have our front end, and then we're gonna need a window up to like orchestrate things on the command line. So you can see I just split my screen up into like multiple terminals. You can just open up new terminals. And then what you wanna do is go into that project folder on just all of these, okay? So let's do that. And then what I'm gonna do is just load this up in Cursor, okay? So let's load up Cursor. Cursor is just an IDE. It's an IDE that lets us kind of like visualize and see let's see, get rid of this. Okay, it's gonna let us see what we're working with here. So I'll zoom this in a little bit so you have a little bit more visibility. This is downloading right now. So like all these files are kind of showing this blue, but the minute that it's completely installed all the dependencies and initialized to the Git repository, this will all go normal colors, okay? So we're gonna keep that window open, there we go. And then we're gonna go over here into the window that just finished, okay? So this window is gonna tell you exactly what to do. So it's gonna tell you to go into the directory, right? and it's going to tell you to spin up the chain. It's also going to tell you to deploy your contract, and it's going to tell you to start your front end. Okay, so that's all you need to do is do yarn chain to spin up your chain, right? In a second window, yarn start to spin up your front end. So we have the chain in this window, we have the front end in this window, and then over here we can do the yarn deploy. Now, Scaffold-ETH comes with a starter contract. It's like a greeter contract. It's like a hello world contract. And you can see that we get some output that shows that the transaction was successful and it deployed to this address with this much gas. And then we get some like console log output that comes from the smart contract. So it's working. We also get some output from Hardhat, and then we get the front end here. So it's really a way for you to like visualize everything that's going on, have these 3 terminals, and have control. So if we go to Scaffold-ETH, which runs on port 3000, right? Local host 3000, we're going to get Scaffold-ETH, which is, of course, a Next.js application. And we're going to get a front end kind of like already ready for us to start with, right? If that loads up. We'll give it 1 second. It does need to compile like this kind of like root of the application, but my computer is running a little bit extra slow right now. So let's see if it finally loads. I might need to like shut down something that I don't. Let's close this other project so it doesn't cause a problem. Okay, come on, let's load. Okay, this is very, very slow. There we go. It should be good now. Let's see. There it goes. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so Scaffold-ETH is going to run on port 3000, and then we're going to get automatically we get some kind of like wallet that is automatically started up with our application. Okay, so if you look here, we have this like connect wallet button, and then it went away and it connected automatically. So what's cool about Scaffold-ETH is we get this what's called a burner wallet, which is like embedded inside the app, and it's stored. The private key is stored in local storage. So what's really useful is we can immediately grab some funds from the faucet by just clicking that little button, and then we get like some kind of fake ETH to like play around with, right? That comes from Hardhat or Foundry. And what we can do is come to this debug contracts tab. This page that you see right here is all like boilerplate kind of hello world stuff. But the magic of like Scaffold-ETH actually comes here in this debug contracts tab, if it will load. I don't know why my computer is running so slow, but it is hating me right now. I think it's Zoom. Zoom is just evil, but and I've just been doing too much stuff on my computer. I think it's time for me to get a new one. Go ahead and close this. No, it doesn't work. Don't want that. Sorry, guys. Let's try this one more time. Let me try to refresh here. Okay. Let's try it one more time. Wow, my computer's really, really messed up right now. I don't know why. Let me try crashing out my terminal real quick. And what I'll do is reload my terminal because I think my terminal is taking up way too much memory right now. And let's see if that helps. The demo gods are my favorite today. Okay, let's see. Yeah, 2 gigabytes of terminal is not very good. Okay, let's try it one more time. We'll open up a new terminal and we will come here. And it's still running pretty slow. Wow.
Geprek satu bang, geprek satu. Gak usah deh, nggak ada aja. Sambel, nggak ada.
Let's try closing that. browser. Maybe that's what it is. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to.
Okay. We're obviously having some just technical issues. It's okay. We'll give Kevin a moment to just restart his browser and everything here. Hopefully rejoin us. It is looking like it's frozen for me on my screen. Not sure if you guys are getting that same thing. Yep, same. Okay, awesome. Thank you, DMP, for confirming that. Oh, it looks like he's dropped. Okay, so he's gonna come back. He will be back. Don't worry. We will extend this workshop to make sure that you guys get the proper demo. Also, maybe at this point in time, if you guys have any questions, always feel free to put them right into the Zoom chat. And then any question that's not covered that you have that you need answered, please, the Discord's always open and is definitely the best place that you could be dropping those. So we'll just have a little small pause here for a second, let Kevin get back in the room. Andrew, just on the back end, if you do see him, I'm checking out participants as well, but if you see Kevin before I do, we'll just get him readmitted into the room.
Got it, Aubrey. I'll keep a lookout for him.
Nice. And we will just take a few minutes to make sure he can get back in here.
Free Kevin, Amir. Free Kevin. That's funny. Still looking for him.
I think when he was closing out all those programs, just close himself out. All right, I just readmitted Kevin. We'll just give him a moment here.
I am so sorry about that. My computer decided to completely turn off on me.
That's totally
It's like
fine.
it's like you've been using too much AI lately, and it was just like zoop. So, sorry about that. Okay. Thank you guys for hanging in there. I appreciate all you guys that waited. So let's kind of start where we were. Let me share my screen and continue off. Okay, so it's running so much better, by the way. My computer's running great. Okay, so let's get it started up real quick. So we have these three windows. Okay, so we go CD example, yarn chain, because it's not going to be up, I don't think. CD example, and we're going to go into yarn start. So we have our chain, our backend, CD example, yarn deploy. All right, cool. So there we go. We got our front end's up. Our contract got deployed. By the way, you can always deploy your contract. It might tell you that it's already deployed, and that's fine. It says nothing to compile. Let me zoom in a little bit here so it's easier to read. If you ever want to force your contract, you can do yarn deploy -- reset. And that will like force your contract to get redeployed with a completely new contract address. So that's kind of useful because sometimes you just want to make sure that it starts from the scratch. And here we go. So now let's go back here and let's look at debug contracts. So we have our debug contracts tab. And why this tab is so useful is when you deploy a smart contract, you might know that you have an ABI, right? You have an application binary interface that basically tells your front end how to interact with the smart contract, what kind of data types, what kind of function calls, what kind of variables, stuff like that. And what happens with Scaffold-ETH is at the time of the deploy, there's this deployed contract TS that gets run or that gets generated. And it's basically all of the TypeScript definitions so that you can easily just interact with your contract. This debug tab automatically feeds in that file and automatically builds a UI for you. So you can instantly start kind of like toying around. So without even looking at this contract, I know that it has this greeting counter function to read an address or to pass an address in and get some kind of value out. I know that there's a greeting function that lets me set a greeting, the new greeting, and I can pay some value. So it's a payable function. And we do see that there's a greeting function. So obviously I can come here and be like, hello, HackMoney, like this, and hit send. And it's going to update that greeting, right? So it's a very, very basic example of how you would make changes to your smart contract. You get like a fancy little receipt, which is like the JSON response, essentially, the JSON RPC, and then you can kind of like start kind of like toying around. So if we look at our app now, let's load it in Cursor, and let's take a look here. If we load up our app, there's a few places you're just going to want to make sure that you're comfortable with. The first is this packages folder. There's two different directories. There's the hard hat directory, and there is the Next.js directory. So everything related to the smart contract is in the hard hat folder or Foundry, depending on what you chose. And there's a contracts folder with your contract. So if we come here, we can see that we have a contract. Let's close the AI thing. And we see that it's a very basic greeting contract. It says building unstoppable apps. And we have the contract address set as the owner of who deployed the contract. And then we get this function here that lets us like set the greeting. So very, very basic example of a contract, but it's very useful for just like testing and seeing what's going on. So if you were to make any changes in here, like you were to say, oh, I want to have like a string that's public called the boss, and save that. And then I want to have like a function to like set the boss. We might say function set the boss, and maybe the boss is passed along in a string from there. Oh, wait, we don't want to use a string. Why would we use a string? We want to use an address. Address, and then we want to do address here, address. Okay, so we have this like, and we don't want is owner. We can just have anybody do it. So now we have this function to set the boss, and then we have a function to what the boss is. So if I take this and then redeploy it, we'll basically get a new instance of the contract. And if we go back to Scaffold-ETH, then we will see that right here, this refreshes, and then there we go. We get the boss, and then we could set who the boss is by just saying like vitalik.eth like this. Now, probably a lot of the hackers in this hackathon are going to use AI to code, right? So we are in the era of AI coding. Whether you like it or not, eventually you're not going to be doing very much coding at all. But it is good to know a couple things. So first of all, I mentioned the docs. The docs have a bunch of information around how to create components. So there are like reusable components in Scaffold-ETH that make it easy to do something like have an address displayed. Have an address input field, right? So where you can like type in an ENS name, get the balance of a contract address and have it toggled with ETH and USD, right? And then there's like an avatar, a blocky avatar. There's an Ether input that lets you switch between ETH and US dollars, which is really, really useful. So these are all like components that you can easily just add to the app with all of the syntax right here. So we have really good examples of how to integrate that stuff. But the AI also knows, okay? So all the components are there. Also, real quick, I know like given my computer crash, I lost a lot of time. But if we go to hooks here, there's also hooks. So what are hooks? If you're not a front-end developer and you're like, that sounds scary, it's really not that scary. All it is with your contract or interacting with something. And there are read and write hooks, which are the most important ones. which let you read contract data from a smart contract. Like, let's say you want to know how many times someone has like done something in your contract. You might have a counter that you do that, right? This will let you get back some data in a specific variable name, and you just reference the hook to like go out and query that information, and you can pass in any arguments you need, and then you'll get a data object back with what you need, right? There's a hook for reading, and then there's another hook for writing. So you can write to the contract, and same thing, you call the hook, you determine what you want to name the hook. So in this case, you're probably going to have a separate use scaffold write contract asynchronous function that you'll define for every single thing you do. And so you can go in here and specify the contract that you care about. You're probably going to have multiple contracts too. Like you might have a contract for ERC20, you might have another one for a DEX or whatever, and you'll have to use these different contracts. Anyway, so you'll have this ability to do that with Scaffold-ETH. Now, I was going to show you guys how to build that, but I don't have time. But I do want to show you here that there's a .cursor file and there is a .rules file, or at least there was. Oh, maybe it's not there anymore. Oh, we're just using the MCP now. So I guess we have the context 7 as the direct source of truth. So that means it's always going to go out to context 7, and it's always going to know how to use the docs, or how to like use Scaffold-ETH based off of our docs. So as long as our docs are up to date, Scaffold-ETH is going to like automatically work well with AI. That's new. I didn't know that was there. We also have this grumpy Carlos code reviewer, which is really hilarious because it's the first time I've seen this, but it lets you, I guess this is like examples of, this is very funny. So there used to be like a file in here that would like tell you how to interact with your project. I guess we probably are using it. And I don't know exactly what this does. So this is funny though, what the name has just caught me off guard. So anyways, so Scaffold-ETH is going to work really well for AI out of the box. So you can use Cursor and you could literally just tell AI like, hey, build me an app that does X, Y, Z, and it's going to orchestrate and build you a pretty awesome app. If you're using AI, use Opus 4.5. It's really, really good at UIs and at applications, and I think you'll get a good experience. So I know we're at time, I think. I want to be respectful of that, but I'm happy to stay further and answer questions if people have it, if needed as well.
I definitely think we can go a few extra minutes for you to take any questions if you like, no problem.
Okay, awesome, cool. And apologize again, everybody, for that catastrophe that has never happened to me on a live stream that bad, but I've gotten lucky until this far. So yeah, what questions do you guys have? Feel free to type them into chat. Happy to answer them on the chat, or if someone wants to come off of mute, I can go into detail on whatever you need. And also, I can't see if there were maybe existing questions that maybe I missed, but can you please share any insights of how to utilize AI to learn all those concepts? Yeah. So I mean, honestly, like when you're using AI is a little aggressive right now, so it will just automatically fix stuff. And like if you don't tell it in the settings to like let you see what changed, it's just gonna like fly through and like do a lot of stuff. And I think that's not the best learning experience. I think in the future, like we're gonna really need to understand the code still, even though like AI can fix things pretty well. But for debugging, it's very useful to just after you do a code review, like look through and read through and try to understand the changes it made. Also use Git. So if you're building a project, after every feature that you change with AI, push it to Git, because that is a historical information of everything that you've done in the app. So you can always go back and be like, you know, I did this change, I don't remember what it did, and you're going to have that in your commit that you did, right? Use AI to do all your commits. Be like, hey, like do all my commit work for me in Git, and it will just automatically come up with a really good summary, which is easy to search later. How can we switch the theme to light again? Oh, darken. Oh, you're talking about Scaffold-ETH. There's like a toggle in Scaffold-ETH to switch between light and dark. It's just kind of in the bottom right-hand corner. You just like toggle. If you're using Cursor, if you're talking about Cursor, it uses your system. So if your system is in light mode, it will use light. And yeah, I think you can change that behavior. What's the other question? How can we find context for examples? We use yellow or ENS. How would we feel? Oh, so if you're going to feed context, just give it like if you really want, like if you're using cursor and like you just want to like build something in the Scaffold-ETH, just literally just paste like the docs into the into the cursor thing and be like, hey, I want to integrate this, and just paste the docs that's most relevant. Use as much good like natural language as you can to explain what you're trying to get across, and it will do a really good job. Can you also advise in particular how to learn a new skill with AI without the risk of letting AI do everything? Yeah, so I think I just touched on that. Is like it's very easy to just let AI do like all your work for you. What I do is I use multiple AI approaches. I go into Claude first and I say, okay, hey, create a context for me that is going to basically audit the code, uh, give me best practices if I was a site reliability engineer, if I was a UX and UI designer, and then I take that and I punch that into Cursor and I'd be like, all right, based on this context, create a bunch of reports for me that explain the app in its current state. And you'd be surprised how awesome that is, because it will literally go through your code and it will recommend like, these are the security patches, the issues that you have. These are the UI and UX improvements. These are the SDK like issues. This is your packages that are out of date. Create reports that are in Markdown and then read them, because that's the best thing you can do is like let the AI do its thing, but then read what it does. When am I not using VS Code or Cursor? Why am I not using VS Code? I don't know. I used to use VS Code a lot, but I like Cursor because I do rely a lot on AI now. I'll be honest with you. I do a lot of coding in AI. I think it's to the point where it's reached like critical mass where like it's going to do most things good. Where it doesn't do well is like smart contracts, and that's where you really, really, really need to like manually write your smart contracts. Still, I don't recommend using AI to do that, because unless you're not dealing with money, because there's no money. And for a hackathon, it's probably fine. But if you're going to go to production on your application and it's going to have real money, then I would really, really, really advise like using AI to audit them, but then just kind of like, being very careful. Cool. I think that's all the questions. So any other questions last minute before we end it? Awesome. Thanks again. And I'm so sorry about that. That was really, really crazy. Never had that happen.
No, it's totally fine. You bounce back. And it's obviously always a pleasure, Kevin, to have you. Your workshops are really incredible, and I know they help a lot of people. Is there like the better or a best way for people to kind of contact you with any questions outside of this workshop?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm open, willing to help. On Telegram, I'm Kevin Jones Creates. That's my like. I don't really use Discord all that much. I'll try to hop in there, but I really like Telegram is best. So Kevin Jones Creates. You can also message me on X. So it's crypto mastery _. But really, like Telegram's the best. But if you are on X, I recommend just give me a follow. I appreciate that.
Amazing.
And thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for your time. And then Andrew in the background, we are ready to go whenever you are. So thank you everyone for joining this workshop. It will be live and available on YouTube for you guys to reference throughout the remainder of the hackathon. And good luck with all